All right. So we have a very this one is a very me topic, since the last one, which you haven't heard
Yeah.
but
As you'll find out,
was a very Dorian topic. So I wanted to talk about a show that is very, 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 very responsible, honestly, for me even thinking about picking up a paintbrush. I don't know if it came out during the pandemic or not, but I discovered it during the pandemic. And it's a show called Painting with John. It was on HBO or Max or whatever it's called today.
It's HBO Max now, again.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's great.
If you're listening in 6 months, though, it might
It'll probably be
totally different.
else.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'll be Max BO.
Mm-hmm.
Max, that's their name, Max BO.
Max BO. Or it'll just be called like Jeff or something, just like completely abandoning. Yeah.
So Painting with John is this wonderfully quirky little look into the life of John Lurie. Is it
Lurie? Yeah.
Lurie. So John, I was vaguely familiar with John before the show, because he's kind of one of the him and I share a lot of similarities in the sense that we don't like to just be stuck doing a single thing all the time. So like John started his career as a musician. He formed a band called the Lounge Lizards, and I believe it was him and his brother. I think he played saxophone, but he kind of expanded his musical scope from there. If you've never heard the Lounge Lizards before, they are sort of a predecessor to kind of what modern like hippie jazz is, I guess. I don't like it. When I listen to it, I think of like, this is where MMW kind of got the blueprint, like Medeski, Martin, and Wood, and like those kind of acts. So Lounge, it's great stuff. It's kind of, loosey jazz funk-ish sort of, with a little bit of lounge, and I don't know. It's just it kind of defies labeling, which is a nice thing. I also think that a lot of jazz musicians at the time hated them, so makes it even cooler that way.
Yeah, that probably means they were probably the only real jazz musicians.
But that's the thing. So like John, and that he went on, and he was a composer and a producer and an actor, and a painter. And at some point in his life, he contracted Lyme disease, and it kind of fucked him up in some ways. And so I think he started to like kind of shy away from the spotlight. And that's the thing is with a guy like that, and this will actually lead to one of the really big sort of revelations that I had watching the show. He took himself out of public life for the most part and just kind of painted. And he found, that it was this amazing artistic output in a way that he never really expected. And so the show is literally just him at his house in whatever island he lives in now. I can't remember. Do you recall where it is?
He just had an island in the Caribbean.
Okay, yeah. So he bought a house, he bought some land down there, he like lives in the jungle. He's completely isolated. He has like people helping him, and he just fucks around and paints and just does whatever he wants. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life, to be honest with you.
I know. It like had this like incredible sense of jealousy while watching him. I'm like, dude, this is just what you do. This is amazing.
It's incredible. But so like, I think that the really important thing to note is that for 30 or 40 years he was very on all the time, and he was very important to the New York art scene, both art and music, and did you make it to the episode where he talks about hanging out with Andy Warhol and those folks? And
No, I didn't. I didn't hear that story actually.
so so I haven't watched the show since the first time I watched it.
Mm-hmm.
But the one story, like, because so the whole premise of the show is him just fucking around on his property, telling stories, philosophizing, and then painting. Right? It's just kind of just hanging out with this guy. Basically, it's like this is what it would look like if you hung out with John Lurie for a week. It's like,
while he's talking, they'll just cut to shots of him, just close-ups of like his brush, on the canvas, just painting. It's like it's really cool. It's very tranquil.
Yeah. And so, but the one story that has stuck with me for the last 5 years or whatever is he was talking about, I can't remember if David Bowie's involved, but he basically, and I'm probably going to butcher this, but the gist of it was, I'm great where I am now because I got to do all of these things in the past. And I recognized at some point that I can't do these things forever. And one of the examples that he gave was, it was either in the bathroom with Andy Warhol or David Bowie or someone else of that stature doing cocaine in the bathroom. And then like something, there's another part to the story where it gets really funny. And he was like, he's like, I was never the famous guy, but I was always with the famous guys. And like, there was a time in my life where like we were just doing coke in the bathroom, and and then debauchery would ensue, and and like, but at some point you just wake up and you're like, okay, I'm done with that part of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And during the pandemic, there was no telling if we were ever going to, this is like in the deep throes of the pandemic, there was no telling what, when, and how our life would look post-pandemic, right? And so like I'm like sitting there having this like moment where I was like, am I having that moment right now? Am I never gonna do coke in the bathroom again with some famous person? Like right?
I don't have enough of those stories yet to sustain 3 seasons of an HBO show yet. I need to keep going.
I do.
Yeah, okay.
I've got plenty of those stories. But that's the specific story that has always stuck out to me. Or is always kind of like, anytime I bring up the show to someone, it's the one that like, I don't even tell people that story. But that's the memory that always comes back of me just having that moment of being like, is this part of my life behind me? Am I never going to tour again? And like all of a sudden it became this whole crazy like existential fucking like, rah! But so before we get into the other, like the real like impact that it had on me, what was your take on the show and John as a person and so on?
Yeah. I had not seen this show before and just watched several episodes last night. Really entertaining, first off and foremost. And it's like, I should also mention to anyone listening that like every episode's like 17 minutes. And like, so, there's like 6 episodes in a season. So like you can watch the whole thing in like an hour and a half or like, hour 45. And so, yeah,
that just goes to show you how fucking busy I am right now that I was not able to rewatch this show before we did this episode.
Yep. Like, I mean, you could almost even turn it on as like a podcast in the background, frankly.
I know.
It's like anecdotal. I mean, it's great. Like the shots of him painting and everything is like super cool. And I love that. But yeah, no, I really liked it. Incredibly interesting guy. Just like one of these like, one of the true freaks, who like he lives life by his own code and mentality and everything, and his like clearly it seems like one of those guys who's like never questioned it. It's not one of those like, oh, am I crazy or something? He's like, no, this is fucking who I am. This is life. This is what it is to me, and I'm living it.
Well, and you just landed on part one of why that show fucking floored me the way that it did, because I see a lot of similarities in myself in John, and that being one of the great commonalities that we share. For better or for worse, I am who I am, and I don't question any of it. And and so when I'm watching when I'm watching this and I'm seeing this guy, and I'm like, I feel like I'm looking into a crystal ball right now. I'm like, am I fucking watching my future right now? At the time, painting was never a part of my future, but like just watching this crazy old man talking into the camera by himself on an island, and I was like, is this where the road leads?
Yeah.
Like, if you are this staunchly like, eccentric and individualized, or I don't know what word you would even use to like describe us, right? But like, is this the road that it leads if you don't fucking kill yourself first?
Yeah.
It's like you're just this crazy person on an island fucking talking into a camera to nobody.
Yeah. When you're that, I guess, ferociously independent. It's like at a certain point you either go crazy or you have to just like isolate yourself because you're like, I can't fucking deal with these people. Which definitely seems like, he talks about that a bit in the first few episodes as well, and like his relationship with fame, which was also really interesting. So the thing the name didn't conjure anything up when I heard it, but then they started talking about, he's telling this story about this album that he made, and he wanted, it was getting close to release and they needed cover art for it, and it was supposed to be, they were like, you got to put your face on it, like you're in the movies, like people recognize your face. And I was like, he was in the movies? Like what? And so I looked him up. He's in a David Lynch film, Wild at Heart. He's also in a Wim Wenders film called Paris, Texas, which I adore both of these movies. So I was
you had no idea he was in them.
No clue.
He plays a small character, small role. Yeah.
Very small. Wild at Heart in particular, like blink and you miss it kind of role.
Yeah.
A little bit more in Paris, Texas, but was not like the main guy. And then his really big acting breaks, it seems, were in these two Jim Jarmusch films. Who's famous for doing like Ghost Dog and Dead Man, and he was like, Jim Jarmusch is kind of like the epitome of the like cool New York hipster filmmaker guy.
Yeah. Did he do Coffee and Cigarettes?
Yes.
Yeah.
He did. And but so he did these two movies, one called Down by Law, and one called Stranger Than Paradise. That were both really both fairly in the art house scene at a time when like the art house actually could like do real business. These were both like pretty big things. So he had like lead roles in both of those. Like Down by Law, it's like him, Tom Waits, and Roberto Benigni are like the three main guys, so pretty major stuff. But I actually haven't seen those two films. So I was not as familiar with him, and just kind of saw him in passing these other ones. But still, the fact that he was in movies of that caliber is especially like Paris, Texas is like,
I think he was in Get Shorty too. I think
he was the composer for Get Shorty.
Okay.
Yeah, he scored that movie, which was also one of those things that I was like, dude, that was one of those like iconic soundtracks. When that movie came out, that was something like everybody was listening to that. He has this really, really like huge impact on like the film world that I was just completely unaware of. That was really, really cool, and like definitely connected with him even more at that point. And also was just like, but you paint, it's so cool. Like, just again, kind of like that completed the picture for me. At first it was like, okay, he's this eccentric artist. But then when I heard that and started looking into his past more and saw that like, no, he's this, we've described you before, this like just restless creative. And he's sort of medium agnostic. He doesn't, confine himself to one particular like field of play.
Exactly.
And just kind of goes wherever, the ideas take him. And like, it's really cool. So I was really impressed. And then his whole, talking about, there was a part in, it was like the third or fourth episode that like really got me kind of emotional. Cause he was apparently like very good friends with Anthony Bourdain.
Yes.
And actually, Hannah, my wife, and I have been rewatching some like No Reservations and can't remember the other show.
Parts Unknown or
Parts Unknown. Yeah. We've been rewatching a lot of that, and it's just like incredible stuff. Like he was such a, one of a kind kind of like person for that type of job, and like his his conversational abilities are like second to none. It's like, it's so cool. I mean, all the food and travelogue stuff, but like when he sits down and starts talking to people about like, I don't know, like the politics, like driving like the country's cuisine, traditional, and how it's based in these like really awful things in their history and all this. It's just fascinating stuff. Also watching it, obviously in light of everything that happened with him, there's also parts of it where he starts to get like really dark and stuff, and you're just like, whoa, this is kind of wild. But John, from Painting with John, was apparently good friends with him, and he talks about it because he's talking about like how John made this break with fame, and he was like, it's one of those like it sticks to you, you can't get rid of it, and it took me like a long time to like shed the adhesive of fame. And he said he was telling this to Bourdain one day. They went to lunch together, and John was just sitting down, and he was like, man, it feels so good to not be famous anymore. and he said Bourdain looked at him, and he was like, I like, if there were ever a moment I should have known like something was wrong, like it would have been that moment. He was like, just like the sadness in his eyes when I said that to him, and like the look that he gave me of like pure unadulterated just like jealousy of like, I wish I could have that again. He was like, it was really just like intense moment, because he's just like telling this really like kind of like funny anecdote about his like buddy Anthony, and how he's like, oh man, I'm glad I'm not fucking famous anymore, and then it like immediately turns into this like completely other thing that was like, whoa, that it like really sunk in and like really hit me.
I mean, it's one of those things you can't, 99.9% of people can't put it back inside the box, and I think to John's benefit, he was never that famous,
right?
Like, he was like famous adjacent to like the greater, like he was New York famous.
Exactly. That's what it's
outside of New York. Cause like, one of the things that I love the wrestling podcast, right? And one of the things that I hear a ton about when they're talking about wrestling, historically speaking, is, before cable television, wrestling was territory based.
Right.
So like, WWE was the New York territory, and then WCW was the Georgia territory, and then there was a Memphis territory. There was Memphis, and there was Florida, and there was Chicago and San Francisco, and they each had like their little region that each promotion did, right? So like Jerry Lawler, who famously wrestled with Andy Kaufman in the 80s, or maybe was it the late 70s or early 80s?
Man, I want to say late 70s.
Somewhere in that time.
Yeah.
Whatever. Right? The thing that made that stand out more than it probably should have was the fact that Jerry Lawler was only famous in Tennessee. Nobody knew who the fuck Jerry Lawler was until Andy Kaufman went and started trouble with him.
Right.
Started beating up girls,
Right. I was gonna say,
and then all of a sudden Jerry
women.
Lawler's on Letterman. And, like, so, but they talk about this where like, the stars of each promotion, if they left, now TV, if you were the champion, right? Like when Harley Race was the champion in 1976, everybody knew who Harley Race was. And he could travel from region to region to region, and everyone would freak out. But like, if you were, the fourth guy on the card, and you went from Georgia to New York, nobody gave a shit, And so like, that's how I think about John, is like, he was the fourth guy on the card that like, if he left New York, nobody really, gave that much of a fuck about who he was. But inside of New York, he was, he was one of the guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so it probably made it a little bit easier for him to, to shed that fame,
totally.
like you said. Because I think, although probably the most notable thing he accomplished was that Get Shorty soundtrack, right? Because that got nominated for an Oscar, right?
Pretty sure, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was definitely like one of those, like that was like a hit record,
Yeah. But also at the same time, like, how many fucking people recognize who the composer is or the producer, you know, for those kind of things?
Right. You got to do, you got to do 3 Indiana Jones movies and 3 Star Wars movies before anyone knows the name John Williams, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So he's still a couple franchises away.
Oh, shit. But yeah, so that the person John Lurie was I connected with in a unbelievable way. But then the thing that really kind of like impacted me was the peace that it seemed to bring him when he was painting.
Mm-hmm.
You could see a frenetic person become completely relaxed, and thus the door was kicked wide open for me. And that was like, you know, like when you are burdened with this inability to turn your mind off, it could become problematic. And what does a person who can't turn his mind off do when they want to turn their mind off? They search and they search and they search for ways to do so. And all it does is perpetuate the problem. Right? And so painting had never occurred to me. It had never occurred to me that it could be this like meditative process. And now here's the thing, right? It can be a meditative process. It can also be a fucking psychotic process, you know? And it just really depends on how you approach it. I do both.
Yeah.
For better or for worse.
I was, to that point real quick, I was very intrigued by the like format of the show in that regard.
Yeah.
Because like the bulk of it is him painting and talking.
Yeah.
But there are moments where we cut away to a little bit more like daily life, or him talking with these 2 women who work for him. Like, I don't know, I'm sure they're like his assistants, like making sure he like eats, you know?
He doesn't die.
Like, yeah, exactly. You know, they seem to have like a very maternal kind of like relationship with him.
Caretakers.
Yeah. And so there's moments, you know, where he's interacting with them, and you're kind of like, you know, there are a couple of them where I'm like, okay, he's like a weirdo, you know, like I get it and all this stuff. But then we get back to the painting, and I was like, and that's when that really sunk in. You know, if we just saw him painting and talking, you'd think he's this like, you know, pretty like calm demeanored guy with like some crazy ideas and wild stories and stuff. But like you kind of need those moments to see him like what he's just like as a person. And then once you see him painting and he's just like, he's sitting in one place, you know, and just like
basically in the dark.
Yeah.
With one light, which is an interesting thing. So
yeah, but yeah, it really brought it home, like what painting is doing for him.
Yeah.
You know, like that contrast within the show really made that clear. And so eventually, so after like an episode or 2, I was like, no, we need, like, you have to have these moments.
Yeah.
You know, even though they're not.
It paints the full picture of who he is. You know, and you don't get that. And like somebody like me doesn't make that connection without all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because
no,
I recognized
absolutely.
it. I recognized it almost instantly. I was like, this dude's out of his mind unless he's painting. And I was like,
Really?
holy shit. And that's when the light bulb went off. And I was like, okay, let's see if this can work. Now, the one thing I will say, and this kind of goes to your, you know, neck of the woods, the way that they shot him painting blew my mind. And because they would do these hyper close like macro shots, you know, and you could see the like singular drop of paint like pull off the brush and then like through the canvas. And I was like enamored with that, and I was like, okay, so there are, because in my ignorance of like just thinking of like, I paint, you know, up and down and left and right and in and out and in, you know, whatever, right? And it showed this other side of painting, the like what's the word I'm looking for here? the natural effect that just adding this to this can do, and like how wet is it versus how dry is it versus this medium versus that medium, and how they interact with each other. So it's this, it shows, and I don't know if this was intentional or not, but it shows the chaotic nature of how painting can work, where it's not all about technique. It's all about letting things happen as they do. And that was a big part of what kind of opened my eyes to the possibilities of painting, because I have mild at this point hand problems, but like writing is not easy for me. And so the notion of like trying to paint like a portrait or a landscape is beyond me. Physically, I could never do it. I could never hold a paintbrush steady long enough to draw a fucking straight line. Like I get away with it now with like masking tape and straight edges and all that kind of stuff. But to like just naturally be a technically good painter, you know, like in the classical sense, it's impossible. And when I was watching those macro shots and how he was approaching painting from a not technical place, but from a more experimental place of like, I'm going to let this do whatever it's about to do. And the exploration of that, that was like the other big thing that I needed to see to kind of be like, okay, this is definitely a road I can go down. So it's this really, like, the show as a whole offered so many like illuminating things to me in such simple ways, and it's never like blatantly put there in front of you.
No.
You know, yeah, it's so cleverly, creatively done. And I might be the only person on the fucking planet that like took all of this from this show. I don't know. And like, you know, maybe that show was made just for me. If it was, thank you, John.
Yeah. I mean, they got 3 seasons. Somebody must have been watching. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, hopefully somebody else kind of took that kind of inspiration from it.
Well, yeah, it's like the granular shit of it all, you know, like the granular side of it, where it was like, whoa, that little thing just happened.
And even just the way it's like shot reinforces that, because like the moments where he's outside of his studio are usually a bit more like handheld. We're kind of just like following the moment, you know, it's a little more chaotic feeling. And then
it's more like not
fly on the wall.
Yeah, fly on the wall style.
Yeah.
or almost like in the field.
Yeah, like home video practically.
Yeah.
It's just like, somebody just happened to be there with a camera. And then when he's painting, it's like there are these very composed static shots, you know, even the like interview shot of him talking is like a static shot. It's just like a nice, you know, similar to what I've got here. And then these like really beautiful well lit close up shots of the painting. And with those painting shots too, I was kind of blown away just also by, I don't know, like the interruptive nature that filming shots like that must have on his process of painting, because each one of these shots is on like such a small part of the canvas. And, you know, every shot, it's, even in the best circumstances, it's going to take at least a few minutes to set up like the camera and get your lighting right and all this type of stuff. And it's like, we're just going to shoot like this little piece. And it's like, I'm just very curious about like, where they're like, okay, what are you going to move on to next? Okay, give us like 3 minutes to set the camera there, and then we'll get a shot of that.
I can almost tell you with certainty that it actually worked in reverse. I can almost tell you with complete certainty that they picked a spot on the canvas. He probably had a preview monitor, because that's the way that I would do it, right? And I'm thinking to myself like, okay, because he does have composition in some of his paintings, but they are very like primitive in nature, almost childlike. But I would be willing to bet the farm on this, that he was like, just pick a place and I'll work with it.
Okay. Yeah.
Because that's how I would do it, right? And just, knowing how his, the brief understanding of how his mind works, I would be willing to bet that was the case.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way that you can work, with it, unless if he was painting the fucking Mona Lisa, then it's easy, and you say, okay, this is where I'm working right now.
Right.
But like for something like that, if he's just like letting things happen kind of thing, and he had to just be like, just pick a place on the canvas and I'll just play around in there.
Yeah. Yeah, he had such a revisionist kind of mentality towards it. He's at one point in one of the episodes he mentioned that he's like, I'm not a great painter, I'm just fucking stubborn. Yeah. I refuse to let this painting be bad, so I keep working on it until it's good. Yep. So yeah, he might have been like, hey, John, which area of this painting sucks? And he's like, that area sucks. Yeah. Like, all right, cool. We're going to point the camera there. You work on it.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can see sometime, he'll be doing stuff and sometimes he starts like going over something a little bit. And then he's like doing little bits and then he sees what's happening and he just like goes over the entire thing completely. Yep. And like kind of covers up what was there before even.
Yeah. Which is something I do all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. This show really did this show is the blueprint for how I became a painter, both mentally but also like creatively. Like the idea of painting and then how to paint. I literally got all of it from this show. And it's crazy that it like just kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah. So was he I wanted to ask you too, is he painting primarily with watercolors?
So he does both watercolor. He does pencil. He does pencil, watercolor, and he started doing oil later in his career.
Okay.
It's hard. I presume that most of the stuff that they showed was. He might have been doing either or.
It was because you could. Looked mostly like watercolor.
It did, but it didn't because of the way that it like runs after the fact.
Yeah,
watercolor would bleed more. Sometimes when you get those tight lines like that, like when you if you dilute oil enough, right? Like you could dilute oil enough so that way it has the consistency of a watercolor of water. But so when you drop it, it sits and channels the way that it does for him. So that might have actually been oil, but it could have been water also. It's hard to tell.
You can dilute oil paint with water?
No. You can't dilute it with water.
Okay, I was going to say
with other shit.
Okay,
you can dilute it with other shit. Yeah,
gotcha.
So there's like alcohols and other mediums that you can use to thin out.
Okay, essentially
oil.
Interesting. Gotcha. Okay, cool. Yeah, I just kind of like assumed it was watercolor, but also like the results though. I was like, but that doesn't look like watercolor at the end,
Exactly. Yeah.
It's got a very different feel to it.
Yeah.
And it seems like for as much running and like veining, it was kind of cool. Yeah. It's like when the paint, in those types of shots, when you got that kind of resolution that close up and everything, you can really see it like invading individual like fibers of the canvas.
Yeah, that was the shit that blew my mind.
Yeah, because that's really
that's
cool.
That's where I saw opportunity and potential. Because I was like, he's not just running strokes. He's very strategically allowing things to interact with each other beyond his control.
And I can totally understand how for like somebody who's also an actor and a musician, like that would be appealing because there's such like, acting. If you take a single acting class, the first thing it'll tell you is acting is reacting. Yeah. It's like you're responding to what's being given to you. You're not just like running lines independent. There's like a whole scene here, so it's all got to work together.
Yeah.
And so you've always got to kind of like respond to the energy being given to you and then give it back, and have this kind of interplay between the elements. And that kind of painting seems that way. It's like you do something, but then the paint does something else, and then you have to respond to that. It's cool.
And it's the same thing for me, right? As a lighting designer, right? Because like I'm not the lead. I'm always the accompaniment, right? Mm-hmm. I have no idea what those guys are gonna do, so it's just up to me to fucking respond accordingly, or sometimes not accordingly. Derek and I were talking about, this is a funny little aside. We were talking about something to potentially play this weekend, and he was like, when did we do that last time? And I'm not going to say because that'll give it away, but I was like, well, I'm not sure, let me see if I can find it. So I found a YouTube video of it, and musically it's amazing, and I was very embarrassed by the lighting, and I was like, yo, this was back in 23, so that'll be the only clue I'll give it. So it was the first year back.
Okay.
So things were definitely more hit or miss that first year for me, especially. I'll be the first to admit it. I was like, please don't judge me. Those lights are terrible. I guessed wrong. Like I almost wanted to just like I
can't find the video. Yeah, it doesn't exist.
No, I was almost going to just do it. I was almost going to just do like an audio, like try to figure out a way to just like extract the audio out of the video and send them just the audio. That's how bad it was. That's how embarrassed I was by it. And then I was like, you know what? Like I can't hide from this stuff. So I sent it to him, and I was just like, bro, don't judge me. I was like, that's really bad. I'll be the first to admit it. And then I followed it up. I guessed wrong. And he just laughed. He was like, it's all good, dude. But that's the whole thing, right? And like the same thing happens in painting, because like when you're doing stuff like what he was doing and like the way that I paint and everything, right? When you're relying on nature to like be your like co-pilot in this adventure, right? Like the consistency of your medium versus like how dry the paint is versus the humidity in the room, things will respond and react differently, right? And so like there is this sense of like this is all just a guessing game. And the more you do it, the better your chances are of guessing correctly. And sometimes when you guessed incorrectly, you get better results that you didn't expect. So like it's all just you're just playing a giant game essentially of like what's going to happen next. Mm-hmm. And I've been doing that for fucking 20 years already. Yeah. So that's one of those things where people are like, how did you get to where you are so quickly? Like where people are buying paintings and like they actually, in some people's opinion, are good. And I'm like, well, at the end of the day, it's like I've been an artist for 20 years and I've learned a lot of hard lessons over those 20 years. I'm just applying everything that I've learned over that course of time to this other thing. And so whether you want to call it like a shortcut or a backdoor into like, whatever, but it's like any creative endeavor is not about what you technically can do. It's what you know and how you apply it.
Totally.
So like, you can cover up deficiencies if you're clever enough, or if you have enough fucking tricks up your sleeve.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like it's like when Michael Jordan played for the Wizards, right?
Uh-huh.
He's an old man with a beer belly and like had no business being on that fucking court. But guess what he did? He was still dropping 40 on fools because you know why? Because he's fucking Michael Jordan and he learned every trick in the book.
Mm-hmm.
And so like that's creativity in my mind, right?
The
creativity exists up here. These don't matter as much.
You can learn new technical skills, to get like to produce a new conduit between yourself and like that element. But if you know how to engage with your own creativity and like engage in that process completely, it's like whatever technique you're exercising is I don't want to say inconsequential. It's not, but
yeah, of course not.
It's at that point, it's a little bit more malleable.
Yeah.
Especially the better you get at one, it's like in some ways it's easier to pick up another because you can make those kind of like lateral thought leaps where you're like, oh, okay, there's just like I was just talking about with like acting, being reacting versus the way that he's painting. It's like you can make those kinds of like conceptual jumps from one to another. Once you see those connections, you're like, oh shit, no, I know exactly how to do this. What I don't know how to do is like, control the pressure with which I'm putting the brush on the canvas or whatever. But I can learn that.
That I'll tell you right now. I don't know if I ever will. Man, I probably have 30 sheets of canvas over there. I'll just tape a piece of canvas on the wall, and I'll say, okay, light, medium, heavy, right? Pressure. Mm-hmm. And just trying to consistently do the same amount of pressure 10 times. Guess how many times I can do this consistently?
0?
2.
2. Okay.
I've gotten to 2.
Yeah.
To 2. Beyond that, I'm fucked. And like, for 4 years now, I do this exercise at least once a month, maybe more.
Wow.
And I just, for the life of me, the pressure is like, I'm getting better with like holding and running lines and all of that kind of stuff. The pressure, man, I can't fucking handle the pressure.
Yeah.
And that's ironic because that's one of my greatest strengths in everything else that I do. Mm-hmm. I can handle the pressure.
Right.
But for whatever reason, I can't control the pressure.
Yeah. You can handle it. You can't apply it.
Yeah.
That was in our recent trip to Japan. That was one of the most impressive things. Like China, like Japanese calligraphy, and like the way
that's all that it is.
It's all consistency with that. And so at the temples and shrines and stuff, they have these things called goshwin, which are like little piece of paper with like a symbol, that's painted specifically for that temple. People collect them. It's kind of like a gamification of this like spiritual history of Japan and everything. It's fun. But watching them actually, because they all do these for you in front of you when you buy them, but like having the guy, the person who does these, and just watching them was like one of the greatest pleasures of that entire trip, was just like peering through the glass at this person as they're like getting their hands set up and like everything set up just correctly, and then they like start, and like once they stop, it is like, or once they start, it doesn't conclude. Like there's no break, there's no pause of like, let me stop and look at this. Like they're just kind of,
they just go,
have this whole process like laid out. And it's like, because we were with some friends, and so we were getting duplicates, and it's like you'd compare them one next to the other, and it's like it is exactly the same thing.
That's crazy.
It's so impressive. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I bought when I was in Italy last year, I bought a really, really fancy fountain pen.
Nice.
With the thought that maybe this would be a good way for me to practice that exact concept. And I don't know if it's helping or not. I don't write with it enough, I guess. Mm-hmm. I think now that I'm in the studio and like I'm gonna have like my writing space and all that kind of stuff, like hopefully I can just sit down and just do it.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing, man. Like this studio for me is gonna change so much of like how my life works, because for the first time I actually have the space to actually like accommodate all of the different things that I want to do simultaneously, and they don't interfere with each other, because that's been like the greatest conflict in my life. It's like, oh, I want to work on this thing, but now I have to move these 5 other things. Oh, this thing is, I need to pull these 5 things, this cable and this or these whatever from this thing so I can go do that thing. And like that no longer is an issue. Mm-hmm. And so I'm hopeful that like, one, the bandwidth of my mind no longer having to like juggle and shuffle things will free me up to actually like see things through a little bit better, but also like the efficiency of time, where I'm not having to, I don't have that interference anymore.
Right. Yeah.
And
if
so
you want to
like,
go paint, it doesn't take 30 minutes to get that set up. You can just walk over there.
So like, one of the big things that I've really focused on, and I think we've talked about this a little bit, but is like the allocation of time, right? Because I'm a firm believer that like, and maybe this is something that I've grown into, because I'll be the first to admit, when I was younger, I would do something for 18 hours straight and never stop and never think about stopping. But that's a young man's game. And so now, like, I have a rule that, like, I don't work on any one thing for more than 4 hours. Whether or not I leave the room or if I just go work on something else. But I never stay in one place for more than 4 hours. So if I'm working on a stage design or some lighting thing or whatever, 4-hour limit, then I might go paint, or I might go write or type or whatever. But, you know, so I'm hopeful that, like, you know, once this whole thing is, like, completely, like, operational, like, I could just bounce around from, you know, bubble to bubble to bubble and just, you know, just keep things moving and let the inspiration kind of feed on itself almost, where I never have those roadblocks anymore.
Yeah. You're getting
maybe one day, and then maybe one day I will actually be able to apply consistent pressure.
Yeah.
Maybe. There's still hope.
Keep that. Doubtful, hey, if you have that part of canvas just up in the wall every day, and you just, you know, just go over to it every day and just get a set of marks down. Yeah. You're setting up. That's kind of how David Lynch had his house and, like, compound set up in his later life. Was like, he had, like, this is my woodworking room, this is my painting room, you know, this is my weather report studio, like, this is my music studio, you know, whatever it was. He had, like, a space for it.
That's it.
And I remember people, you know, later in life, they were asking about, like, you know, what. Doesn't seem like you get out much. And he's like, for what? Like,
well, that's the whole thing.
Everything,
right?
I want to do in life, like, I've worked my whole life to get to a place where everything I want is here, and now I've got that, you know.
I'm hopefully Christina doesn't listen to this, but I'm already dreaming of the day when the people below me leave.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you right now, with how cheap the rent is here, if I can get the space below me, I might never leave.
Yeah.
And it's just like this, like,
and I might
like,
come stay. Yeah. Sounds awesome.
It's fucking amazing out here, dude. I am so fucking, like, beyond the moon. Like this is my version of an island, right? This is my version of an island in the Caribbean. Is like this tiny little town in fucking upstate New York. Like, I've been bopping around every day. Like, I usually what I've been doing, because I get up at like 4 a.m. And so I used to have this thing back in the early days of living in Atlanta, where it was like field trip sort of time, whatever, where I would just, this is how I learned my way around Atlanta so well, is like for the first 2 or 3 years that I lived there, I set aside a chunk of time where I would just get in the car and go. And maybe I would seek out a destination, but I would always allow myself to discover things along the way or whatever. And so I've been doing that here. And so whether it's like a record store or an antique store or a bookstore or a farm stand or whatever, right? And so I've been doing that every afternoon here. And the amount of joy that I have rediscovered in getting in the car and just cruising around, and like one of the things that I realized was, like, I cannot wait to get my camera stuff back, like, up and running, because I actually want to go shoot stills again for the first time in like 10 years.
Hell yeah.
Like Christina and I went on a walk the other day, and I was like, do I still have those snow pants? Because I'm already thinking to myself, like, even in the summertime, like, just getting in the weeds out here, like in these, like, in the woods and shit. Like, you got to watch out for ticks and all that kind of shit. And like I had like some really thin snow pants, but they had like perfect to just like jump into the wilderness and go. So I'm a little rambling right now, but this is all very fun stuff. When I, like 20 years ago, maybe, me and a friend, we used to travel around together to go to shows, and we used to joke about making a coffee table book of dilapidated barns of New York. And now that I'm back, that's about to become a reality.
About to start, yeah. Awesome.
Dude, we went to visit my parents over the weekend, and I took some back roads that I wasn't supposed to take, and it ended up taking us like 30 minutes longer. But that's when I had the memory of us talking about that 20 years ago, and then being like, holy shit, there are some amazing dilapidated barns on this road. Like I need to start traveling with my camera again, because like I am like incredibly inspired just by like the landscape of this area and the things that I used to see, the things that I'm seeing again or seeing for the first time or whatever the case may be. But it's just like this part of the country is so fruitful in so many ways, both just like naturally, architecturally, like in a curious way, in an eccentric way. You know, there's so much going on out here, even though it seems like there's nothing going on out here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a lot of farmland and shit. Once you leave like Westchester County, like it gets pretty sparse.
Very different,
but there's just these pockets of communities, and then the little roads that interconnect all of these little pockets of creative communities. It's just like it's a treasure trove of just wonderfulness.
Yeah. Well, I love the dilapidated barn coffee table book idea.
Yeah, it's gonna happen, dude. I love ready,
it,
dude. I need to get like two new lenses. I need to get a nice just like banger 100mm fixed lens, and then I just need to get like a good long, you know, zoom lens.
Mm-hmm.
That way I can, you know, cover the full range, because I've got a 50 prime, and then I've got like a short throw zoom lens. It's like a 24-70.
Oh, okay.
So then if I get the 100mm prime and then like a nice long zoom lens, I'm covered. There's nothing I can't fucking catch then.
Totally. Hell yeah.
Because that's the thing. This is one of the most people don't know this, but I'm actually a pretty good photographer too.
You should, when the book is done, you should endeavor to find a way to get it printed on like, I don't know, like printed on like the shittiest, most delicate paper known to man. So like no matter what, when people flip through the book starts to become dilapidated. So then the book itself becomes another dilapidated barn.
Well, what could be even more clever and interesting is just have it be like distressed canvas or something like that. So it has this like texture to it, you know?
Yeah.
And then so the print company that I work with in Atlanta, that I'm still going to continue to work with because they've done such great work for me, Color Chrome. So shout out to my friends at Color Chrome. Angela, nice. You're the best.
That's huge to be able to find a place that's reproducing, you know, it's producing prints of your stuff that well. Yeah.
They actually have these very specialized printers that can actually do, well, you've seen the drop gloss effect. Mm-hmm. Where it makes it look like the paint is still wet.
Right.
But they can also do texture and actual like depth reproduction in the printing process. So like I could actually we could theoretically recreate the texture of like distressed barnwood like with their printers. And so, like, maybe it's the cover of the book has that like texture, because it would cost way too much to do it on every page.
Right?
But,
yeah.
But yeah, dude,
it's actually like reclaimed wood cover.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy what they're able to do with these printers now.
Wow,
like,
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I
wanted to mention also that I was looking through some of John Lurie's paintings after watching the show, and he has a painting called "Godzilla has appeared in 47 feature films and his acting has not improved."
I know I remember seeing this. Yes, I wonder. Hopefully, he's seen Godzilla -1, and he can come out with a new painting that says Godzilla has appeared in 68 or whatever it is now.
Right. Updated.
68 feature films, and his acting has finally improved.
Mm-hmm.
That would be nice.
Hit him up. Maybe this is how you get in with John.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. That would actually be that would be cool. I have to assume that a guy like that just gives no attention to social media.
Yeah, he probably has someone probably runs an account for him just to like sell shit or something. But yeah.
But I know I've looked at his paintings. I want to buy one of these days. I definitely have to, get something of his on my wall. I just haven't.
Yeah,
I haven't sat down and really given it enough thought or time yet. But painting with John, it was an amazing. Or it is. I think. Is it still going? I don't even know.
It seemed like
you said there's a third season.
Yeah, there's 3 seasons that I saw on there. And
okay, I didn't even know there was a third season. I've only watched the first 2 seasons, so I guess I do have some homework to do now.
Got some John.
Yeah.
I think that was like a couple years ago, so I sort of assumed that maybe it wasn't continuing or whatever. But it looked like he also had a show prior to that called Fishing with John.
Yes.
Yes. Which I haven't seen. I don't know if that was available on HBO or if that's like maybe something.
I think that was like that might have been like.
I think it was in the 90s or something.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was a long time ago, and I think it was kind of more of a like tongue. It was even more tongue in cheek than this, I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he still had some piss and vinegar left in him.
It's probably from the New York art scene days.
Yeah,
he was like, "What's what's like the most unhip thing I could do?
Yeah.
Fishing show. All right, cool."
Sweet. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're gonna call it a day here. I got a lot of work to do today.
Yeah, nice.
I gotta finish. I gotta button up the last of this programming for Elements. So, and keep trying to make the studio actually presentable to people.
Yeah, phase 1.
Phase 1 almost complete. Phase
almost
1's
there.
basically complete. And then,
basically,
yeah. Once those blinds come in, it's gonna be fucking gangbusters in here, dude. I can't wait.
Well, thank you for introducing me to Painting with John. I think I'm going to continue watching it. And again, it's like such an easy thing to consume and like actually nourishing. Also it's not like easy to consume. And then afterwards you're like, oh God, did I just watch 4 hours of, The Valley or whatever the fuck. Actually like after watching it, it's like, not only was that not an enormous amount of time, but I feel like I actually like got something out of it,
Yeah.
And it's hugely entertaining.
Yeah, that's been a big part of my break from television and cinema, to be totally honest, is that so much of it just is so artificial now and just such fucking everything. Like everything that I watch feels like a fucking waste of time. And that's the one thing that like I'm just not interested in doing anymore.
Yeah.
And so like, I give my wife a hard time because I'm like, you gotta stop watching Bravo. It's so bad. It's such a waste of time. But beyond that, like, it's filling your head with just negativity, and it sucks.
Yeah,
but she loves it, and it's her little escape from life. So it is what it is. But I just can't bring myself to watch things that I don't think have some intrinsic value to them, whatever it may be, and if you just want to be entertained, then go ahead and be entertained, but I need to actually get something from it.
Right. Yeah, so exactly. Same here.
This show is quite possibly the last thing that I can honestly say that I was like, this, I did not waste my time watching this. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you on that 100%. I'm pretty much the same way. It's like if I turn on a movie, which is frequently, it's like pre 2010.
Yeah. Maybe
even pre 1990.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, as you can see from this glorious collection behind me, cinema, here's the thing, right? There's maybe of the 2000 tapes that I own, I would say maybe 50 of them at most were produced after 1997. I think that's the line.
Yeah. That's healthy.
Maybe 98.
Yeah.
But late 90s. There's no, So
yeah. There's the early 2000s
Shakespeare
horror
and
thriller
Love.
World is kind of rich.
Yeah. Shakespeare in Love might be the most recent movie I own. What's that, 1999?
I think so. Incredible.
Right, let's see.
Love it.
Can I find anything from 2000 in here?
I was gonna say Hannah and Christina and Uma, I think, all need to hang out sometime because Hannah is also a Bravo acolyte.
I mean, all women are. We're gonna. Oh, wait, hold on. I found something.
Freddy. Oh yeah, Freddy versus Jason.
What year is this?
That's like early 2000s, I want to say.
Yeah, it is. Let's see. Where's the year?
Yeah, 02, 03.
I'm going so blind. I can't find the year on this. Okay, well I have to assume. Yeah, it's early 2000s, right?
I'm pretty positive. I'm pretty sure I remember being in.
So there you go.
2003.
But I mean, yeah. So there you go. So this is probably. This is actually still sealed.
Still sealed.
Ooh, this might actually be worth some money.
It should. Yeah, it should remain sealed. Also, frankly.
Freddy versus Jason, 2003. This, quite possibly, is the newest movie I own.
That's awesome. I kind of wish I could say the same, but there's been a few here and there over the years.
Well,
yeah, but the vast majority, I would say, is like pre-2000.
Yeah. Stroke of Midnight. Thank you for listening.